Good morning, beloveds. What a great Sunday. Right? As I just take you in for a moment, and all that has happened, our meditation, our music, our announcements, I'm reminded why we come together. Like easily, we could have each been in our homes singing to a little computer screen. But we come together for community, for that sense of belonging. I want you to know something. I want you to know that when I come here now, I feel like I belong. Thank you. I used to feel like, oh, I'm coming to speak at Seal Beach. I'm coming to give a talk. I'm coming to inspire and uplift. And as a result of coming over and over and over again and being in your presence and getting to know you by name, it's like visiting my cousins. It's feeling that connection. And I pause because what I don't want you to know is that I'm afraid. I'm afraid of rejection. I'm afraid that you'll see me as the other, or she's just coming to talk. I'm afraid that I won't be accepted and honored and seen as valuable or important or necessary. What I don't want you to know is that at times when I leave here, I go, what just happened? And that I wonder if I was good enough for you. I appreciate that. Thank you. And I share this with you because today's topic is relationships, right? Our monthly theme is relationships, and as we look at relating to one another, it feels like all of us are trying to find our people. And that we search from place to place to place to find our people. And in that search to find our people have been surrounding us all along. And that the human instinct is to, at times, look at the differences and make them gaps to our connection instead of looking at those differences as accessories and accoutrements and feathers in our caps and things that actually make us stronger and that actually bring us together. And I'm not sure why I'm being so vulnerable today, because this was not the talk that I had planned to give. But as life would have it and as spirit would have it, how can we begin to really build interdependence and relationships when we're not willing to be honest with one another? And the honesty is that I get afraid. And that I want you to like me. And I imagine that if that's the truth for me, that many of us come to spiritual community feeling the same way. And not that misery loves company, but it's so good not to be alone in that feeling. It's so good to recognize and to understand that other people are also experiencing some of the same things. Today's specific talk title is You and I Are We. But what kind of we are we being is really what I want to look at. Are we the we that is willing to be vulnerable and willing to share the hurts, the pains? Are we the we that are willing to look at and have those courageous conversations as to how we're living and what our thoughts and beliefs are? You see, we come together on Sundays in particular, not only to be entertained, but to be moved and inspired and uplifted to make some small changes in our own lives, in our own living, in our own thinking, in our own beliefs that are sufficient to changing humanity. Notice that that's the you and I are we, that as we come together individually, that as the collective, that we're lifted, inspired, and moved and motivated to make those little changes within the individual that actually affect the we. There's no such thing as just a personal self, because when I win, we all win. When Thank you. When I shift and change and have that awakening and I awaken, then what makes that awakening makes it possible for others to see, oh, wow, if it can happen for Sunshine, of course it has to be able to happen for me. Or if someone in our community can make this simple change, of course it can happen for me. Or sometimes people move and shift and change in ways that we don't like them to, but it causes us to look at ourselves and make that change. I'm going to be even more vulnerable and share with you that, when I was in the throes of my alcoholism and addiction, believe me, I thought it was me, myself, and I, and leave me alone. I'm the one drinking and doing the shenanigans. You can fill in the blanks. You know what shenanigans you've been up to. I'm not bothering you. Don't bother me. But what I wasn't aware of is that it wasn't just me. I'm not just the silo. That around me immediately were 10 people that were directly impacted by my behavior, by my being, by the way I wasn't being, by the things I was doing. That it wasn't just me. And so as you begin to look at your life, that you have a radius of 10 people, even though you might think, oh, all my friends and family are dead and they're gone and I don't have anybody and it's just lonely. No, I used to think the same way. But imagine right now that you impact on the minimum 10 people. And the moment that I hit bottom and was faced with take me out of my misery or show me how to live, when I had the gift of desperation, I surrendered and allowed some amazing people to show me how to live a life without drugs and alcohol. You know what that did to the 10 people around me? Can you imagine the impact? Some of my family members had to look at their relationship with drugs and alcohol and go, I wasn't that bad, but wow, if this can happen for her, what can happen for me? Or, oh, wow, what a change. I like who she's becoming. I like who she is. This is the result of 35 years of sobriety, where that one decision has caused me to search within to find that indwelling power and presence that has created everything out of itself. Therefore, my life is the life of God. And if that's the truth of me, then that's the truth for each and every one of you. Imagine the 10 people immediately that you would affect by simply taking on this philosophy that we know clearly as the science of mind and spirit. Imagine, beloveds, no yin without a yang. We are interconnected. We are one. You and I are the we. And so, who are the we as community? I know in a few weeks, we get an opportunity once again to meet in spiritual community between Vida, my center, Vida Spiritual Learning Center, and Seal Beach Center for Spiritual Living, and Namaste Center for Spiritual Living. What an amazing way that 3 spiritual communities get to come together in fellowship as we look at impacting and affecting this Southern California area. But here's the thing, is that as we are the we, what if you individually were the only science of mind book that your neighbor read? Would your life, your living, the words coming out of your mouth, your thoughts, your beliefs, your way of being, would they be an example, proof that this philosophy is real? You see, because how each of us is living individually impacts the we. You know, it works in everyday situations. It's called stereotypes. You know, when we make these general assumptions about those people, you can laugh, it's okay. I know I'm getting really close. But let's face it, we all have biases and beliefs and stereotypes that we hold to be true, which are simply not. But what do you think the stereotype is about you metaphysicians, you science of mind folks? Is the stereotype they walk their talk? Is the stereotype of they're just so airy-fairy? Is the stereotype, they're just so individualistic? Is the stereotype, those law of attraction people, it's all about the material? Because if I were the only science of mind book, if you were the only science of mind book that people experienced or read, what would they say about our philosophy, about our way of being, about who we are? Would they say, oh, wow, What an inclusive group of people. They just love everybody. What a dynamic group of people. I want what they have. Not only are they manifesting material needs, but they're manifesting loving, unified communities. And it all starts with the self. It all starts in here, because the micro impacts the macro. What we do on a small level impacts the world on a grand scale. I played softball. I wish I could play again. I want to be able to carve out some time to play softball again. I don't know what it might look like, maybe wiffle ball, as we run those bases. But the thing that I absolutely loved about playing softball was this idea of team. I played a few different positions. I loved playing catcher. And I can still play catcher because I can still squat, right? And I loved it because it gave me a chance to be in each pitch. Because if that pitcher, made a strike or whatever, I was there, I was able to touch the ball, and I was able to throw that ball back to the pitcher, and I felt like I was really in the game. Now, I'm clear that when I am in my position as catcher, I cannot be the left field player. That I get to be in my glory, in my position as catcher, and I get to let the left field person catch those fly balls, those grounders, get that ball in to prevent the other team from scoring on us. What I'm getting at very quickly is that we're all so different, but we need one another to be a team. I can't be in the left field or the right field or shortstop when I'm catching. I can't be all things to all people. I can only be me. You can only be you. And in team, that difference is actually valued and honored and important. It is celebrated. It is not looked down upon and shunned. It is celebrated because we need the variety and difference to be a team, to be the we. When we come into the dugout after winning, we don't go, I won. We say, we won. We won. We won, and we high five. And we allow people to get good and be skilled in the areas that they're good and skilled at, and we celebrate that. Are we doing that in spiritual community? Are we honoring the differences? Are we encouraging people to be their best selves? And as importantly, am I doing my best to improve my skills as catcher? Am I doing my best to improve my knowing that my life is the life of God as a member of this spiritual community? Am I doing my best to eliminate those thoughts of separation of those people, when in fact, all people are my people? All life is my life. Yeah, I get it. The news is bombarding us with ideas of hatred, with ideas of there are bad people in the world, and we even grew up with don't talk to strangers. Imagine if we were to really hold that true today, we'd be walking in here and not talking to one another, because some of y'all are really strange. No. Me too. But we get to question, where is God? Where is God? Everywhere present, that's what we teach. In, through, and as all things. And that little word as is the most important. In, through, and as my life. In, through, and as the life that is sitting in your seat. And to the degree in which I begin to call others, those people, I am never part of the collective. I am never part of the we. I am always separate. And I'm not necessarily the best example of this philosophy that tells us that we are one. This is not easy. If it were easy, every chair in this sanctuary would be filled. These seats are actually for those who are spiritually courageous. That's who you are. That's who we are. We're spiritually courageous because we're willing to question our beliefs and hold them to the mirror of our philosophy, that there's one power, one presence, one life, that life is whole, perfect, and complete, that life is God, that life is my life now. That life is your life right now. That life is the life of all right now. And even though we may not like what the other life of God is doing in this moment, it does not make it any less the life of God than my life, because I'm being Miss Goody Two-Shoes, or I'm being a good science of mind, but not them. All life. I want to end with something that I taught our spiritual community, and we used to do early on. And that is a mantra that came to me. And that is just like this. I see the sacred. I hear the sacred. I speak the sacred. All life is sacred. Do that with me right now, please. I see the sacred. I hear the sacred. I speak the sacred. All life is sacred. We are sacred. You are sacred. All life is sacred. And there is no me without you. So there is the we. There is the we. And so as I remember and as I am reminded of this truth for me, I also know that this is the truth for we. Let's take a moment in prayer. How grateful I am in this moment that I know that there's one power, one presence, one life, that it has created everything out of itself. I recognize this power to be love, to be joy, to be peace, to be abundance, to be wholeness, to be eternal. I know that this power is the only thing that is happening. And therefore, in the beginning, as humanity calls it, whatever beginning there is in eternality, God created and could only create out of the only source that there was. And the only source that there was and is this power and presence. So through some act of involution, God created everything. God created me, created the mountains, the sea, the sky, created all of humanity in its magnificence, the animals, every galaxy. It is all the unique, unrepeatable way that this power and presence represents itself in all forms. So I know that I'm one in it, that it is my life, that it is living and breathing me and having its way as me, that there's no spot or no place in my body where God's life begins and my life ends. It is all God. And so it's from this consciousness that I speak a word of blessing for this community, knowing its abundance, its peace, knowing its community, knowing its wehood, its sense of we acting individually, but knowing that it affects the collective. So I'm simply knowing peace, power, love, abundance, and growth. That this consciousness continues to grow individually and collectively, and that as this spiritual community continues to grow, that it is a blessing to the world. It's a blessing to the world. It is so, and so it is. Thank you.